In spite of sorrow, loss, and pain, our course be onward still. We sow on Burma's barren plain. We reap on Zion's hill.
Adoniram Judson was a pioneering American missionary who spent nearly 40 years preaching, planting churches, and translating Christian texts in Burma, modern-day Myanmar. Universally recognized as America's first foreign missionary, his incredible endurance through severe illness, intense grief, and brutal political imprisonment helped establish the foundation for the modern missionary movement. Judson was born on August 9, 1788, in Malden, Middlesex County, Massachusetts. He was born to Abigail, née Brown, and Adoniram Judson Sr., a congregational minister. In September 2, 1807, he graduated Bachelor of Art degree at Brown University. In 1810, Judson joined a group of mission-minded students who called themselves the Brethren. The students inspired the establishment of America's first organized missionary society. Eager to serve abroad. In 1810, the elders voted to form the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions. He married Anne Hasseltine on February 5, 1812. He was ordained the next day at the Tabernacle Church in Salem. Judson arrived in Calcutta on June 17, 1812. On September 6, 1812, he switched to the Baptist denomination along with his wife, and they were baptized by immersion in Calcutta by an English missionary associate of William Carey named William Ward. After they were baptized, and already in June, the United States had declared war on Great Britain. On July 13, 1813, he moved to Burma, and en route his wife miscarried their first child aboard ship. It was another difficult year before the Judsons finally reached their intended destination, Burma. Buddhist Burma, Judson was told by the Serampore Baptists, was impermeable to Christian evangelism. Judson, who already knew Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, immediately began studying Burmese grammar but took over 3 years to learn to speak it. He found a tutor and spent 12 hours per day studying the language. He and his wife firmly dedicated themselves to understanding it. During this time they were almost entirely isolated from contact with any European or American. 4 years passed before Judson dared even to hold a semi-public service. At first, he tried adapting to Burmese customs by wearing a yellow robe to mark himself as a teacher of religion, but he soon changed to white to show he was not a Buddhist. Then, he gave up the whole attempt as artificial and decided that, regardless of his dress, no Burmese would identify him as anything but a foreigner. A Burmese Zayat. He accommodated some Burmese customs and built a zayat, the customary bamboo and thatch reception shelter, on the street near his home as a reception room and meeting place for Burmese men. 15 men came to his first public meeting in April 1819. He was encouraged but suspected they had come more out of curiosity than anything else. Their attention wandered, and they soon seemed uninterested. 2 months later, he baptized his first Burmese convert, Mong Nor, a 35-year-old timber worker from the Hill tribes. Burma Baptist Chronicle stated that Mong Nor, Nai Nor, was an ethnic Mon. In 1820, Judson and a fellow missionary named Coleman petitioned the Emperor of Burma, King Bagyitao, in the hope that he would grant freedom for the missionaries to preach and teach throughout the country. Bagyitao disregarded their appeal and threw one of their gospel tracts to the ground after reading a few lines. On July 12, 1821, he completed translating the 4 Gospels and the letters from John in Burmese since 1817. July 12, 1823, Judson completes the first full handwritten draft of the New Testament in Burmese, along with a summary overview of the Old Testament. In March 5, 1824, the war broke out between British East India Company and Burmese. English-speaking Americans were too easily confused with the enemy and suspected of spying. Officers led by an official executioner burst into the Judson home, threw Judson to the ground in front of his wife, bound him with torture thongs, and dragged him off to the prison of Ava. Then moved to Ong Pinlay prison. He spent 20 months in prison. During in prison to keep the irreplaceable New Testament manuscript safe, his wife Anne hides it inside a hard, dirty pillow that she smuggles in and out of his prison cell. By late 1825, the British military forces had decisively crushed the Burmese armies and were marching directly toward the royal capital of Ava. The Burmese court realized they were completely unable to communicate or negotiate complex peace terms with the British commanders. The king and his ministers knew that Judson was one of the very few people in the empire who was highly fluent in both English and formal, classical Burmese. They took him out of his cell specifically to translate critical government documents and interpret during the high-stakes peace talks. The historic Treaty of Yandabo was officially finalized and signed. The British Army demanded the absolute release of all Western prisoners. Judson and his family were finally allowed to leave Burmese territory completely and enter British-governed zones. On October 24, 1826, Anne died at Amherst, now Kyakami, Burma. Their third child died 6 months later. She died while her husband was out exploring the ceded province of Tenasserim. Judson relocates the mission base to Molmine. He begins translating the massive texts of the Hebrew Old Testament. Most of the growth of Baptist churches in Burma was in British-ruled territory, rather than the Burmese-ruled kingdom. Most of the growth came from animist tribes, rather than from the major population group, the Buddhist Burmese. May 16, 1828, Ko Ta Pew was baptized at the age of 50 in a water tank located near Tavoy, now Dawei, Burma. This historic event marked him as the first recorded Christian convert from the Karen ethnic group. In January 4, 1829, Ko Ta was ordained by Adoniram Judson in Molmine and made history as the very first indigenous Burmese Christian pastor. January 31, 1834, Judson officially finishes the very first translation of the complete Bible, both Old and New Testaments, into the Burmese language. In April of that same year, he married Sarah Hall Boardman, widow of fellow missionary George Boardman. They had 8 children, 5 of whom survived to adulthood. Sarah's health began failing and physicians recommended a return to America. September 26, 1835, Judson completes a thorough revision of the Old Testament text. March 22, 1837, Judson finishes a heavily revised edition of the New Testament, which is subsequently published on its own. October 24, 1840, exactly 27 years after arriving in Burma, Judson completes a sweeping, final revision of the entire combined Bible. This landmark quarto format second edition is published by the American and Foreign Bible Society. It is the version he finally considers complete and satisfactory. September 1, 1845, after 11 deeply happy years of marriage and 8 children together, Sarah dies of a wasting illness aboard a ship en route to America. She is buried on the island of St. Helena. January 24, 1846, he completed English-Burmese dictionary. June 2, 1846, marries his third wife, popular American author Emily Chubbuck, Fanny Forrester, who initially met him to write Sarah's biography. Judson developed a serious lung disease and doctors prescribed a sea voyage as a cure. On April 12, 1850, he died at age 61 on board ship in the Bay of Bengal and was buried at sea, having spent 37 years abroad with only one trip back home to America. A memorial to Judson was built on Burial Hill in Plymouth, Massachusetts. By the time of Judson's death, he had translated the Bible into Burmese as well as a half-completed Burmese-English dictionary. 7. Burma at the time had 100 churches and over 8,000 believers. By 2006, Myanmar had the third largest number of Baptists worldwide, 14, behind the United States and India. The majority of adherents are Karen, Kachin and Chin. Each July, Baptist churches in Myanmar celebrate Judson Day, commemorating his arrival as a missionary.